Hi, welcome to episode 16 of the American Tributaries podcast, where to break out of the bubbles we've all been living in these last few years, we are using modern technology to explore the various currents of people in our great country, kind of like a 21st century Lewis and Clark journey. I'm your host, Michael Whidden, and thank you for joining me in this exploration of America. If you enjoy listening, please subscribe on whatever platform you're using. Go ahead and give us a like in this particular episode, and check us out on Instagram at American Tributaries. Today, I'm really quite delighted to be joined by Kathy Buccio. Kathy is a friend, neighbor, and a fellow parent in our neighborhood here in Brooklyn, and has a multi-pronged career as a TV show host, lifestyle expert, and show producer. And hopefully we'll have enough time to go into all the different aspects of Kathy's life and story. But it was that role as a lifestyle expert that I was most intrigued by, because I believe, to me, it kind of marks the democratization of branding and indicates that there's more opportunities than ever out there for entrepreneurs. So before we go any further, though, I should thank my wife, Christy Whidden, for connecting us. So thank you very much, dear. And Kathy, thank you for joining me. How are you doing today?
Absolutely. I love that. You get some brownie points today, Michael.
I have a lot of points I got to rack up.
I really love it. I'm so honored to be part of your podcast. I was taking a look back at some of the many people that you've had, and it really is an honor. It's such a nice web of what makes America so amazing and diverse, right? So got to meet all these different people and all these different careers and jobs and place in society that you normally wouldn't even meet on a day-to-day basis, but this is awesome that you get to do that on your podcast. So
yeah, I think it's become really, I guess, like a passion project. At first I felt like I kind of had to do it, but now I feel like I want to do it. And I think what I found in my career in the Navy was that when you think about, a Navy ship is basically it's a city, or it's a village, and in that city and that village you've got all types of people with all types of talents. And the thing that you kind of really, when you step back, you have to think about is the people who do those different things have different interests and have different motivations and different beliefs. And the strength of a society is having those diversity of skills and those diversity of passions. But that means you've got to accept those diversity of skills and passions. That doesn't mean that there aren't things or values that are transcendent, but I think that requires a higher level of tolerance. And I think when you look at society, you realize like so many different people have a part to play. So, my friend Deborah on I think episode 2 or 3, who's the JPL scientist, certainly has a part to play in advancing human knowledge and our awareness of the universe. But I had a role when I was selling wine, and you have a role when you're talking to people about the new products that are out there. So how did you get into this? That's a pretty broad question, but or maybe the first question is like I described those 3 different roles. What exactly are those 3 different roles, and like how much of your time do they take up?
It's funny though, I kind of fell into the lifestyle expert role, but I would just give you a little backstory. I grew up in a house, like my grandfather was a journalist and sports broadcaster and writer in Cuba, and when he came to the United States, he, bless his heart, kept pursuing that, and it's a testament to his dedication and perseverance that he was able to do that here as well. And I've always loved that. I've always loved watching him growing up, when he would sit in his office and do his stories for the paper, or when he was off to, broadcast one of the Marlins games. He was one of the Spanish broadcasters for the Florida Marlins, Miami Marlins from the first day. And so I was always very lucky to be privy to that and be able to be with him and go with him, visit him at work. And it was always something I wanted to do. Now, not necessarily sports. It's not, what I knew a lot about it growing up, but really what I wanted to do always was entertainment. I knew from very early on, this is what I wanted to do. And I wanted to do broadcast journalism. And I remember I moved to New York. I was 20 years old, 2 suitcases full of clothes. And I said, I'm leaving. I'm going. I had applied to a couple schools. I was abroad studying, and I had not been accepted yet to any school. And I just showed up here because I knew that I would be accepted somewhere. And I was, thankfully, to the schools I wanted. But Fordham was really where I wanted to be because of their internship program, and especially in their broadcast department. And I was very fortunate. I had an amazing college experience with Fordham. And
go Rams, by the way. I went to law school there.
Yes, go Rams. We went to the same campus, the Lincoln Center campus, and then I had to transfer over to Rose Hill, which was absolutely stunning. I like to say I was on the 6 like J-Lo, but I mean, monetarily we went very different ways, right? um, but I loved the school and I loved the opportunities it gave me, and one of the first internships I did, and I will never forget, growing up I loved watching entertainment shows. I was always obsessed with celebrities and red carpets and movies and all that jazz. And I would watch Access Hollywood a lot on NBC growing up with like Nancy O'Dell, Pat O'Brien, and I loved watching it. And I would always say, that's what I want to do. I want to work for Access Hollywood. And I went to Fordham, and I'll never forget walking to the counselor's office in my department. And they're, outside the bulletin boards, they have all plastered, they encourage you obviously to find an internship. And one of them was a hot pink paper. And it said, we're looking for an intern at Access Hollywood. I yanked that paper because I said, that's mine. No one's going to take it from me. And I called and I sent my resume, my cover letter, and the woman who is and always will be my mentor, who my first, Miss Chris Fahey, which I adore, she was the bureau chief, and she said, all right, come on in. And I feel like from there, the rest is history. I started as an intern, absolutely loved it. It was a dream come true. And finished that internship, and then ended up getting an internship at Good Morning America for the following semester. And I decided to deviate completely. I said, well, I did entertainment access. Let me just go do something else to make sure that this is what I really want to do. So I did parenting. I was a parenting producer, and I mean, they put me to work there, and it was wonderful. So I picked up a lot of skills, but I knew, I was like, no way. I want to do entertainment. This is what I want to do. And I graduated, and Chris called me and she's like, hey, we have a position open as a receptionist. And I'll tell you something, Michael, you learn very quickly when people tell you you have to pay your dues. That's a very big expression in the TV world. And, here I am, a child out of, a kid out of college. And I'm like, I'm not going to be a receptionist. I have a degree from Fordham. And I turned down the job, and it was very difficult coming out because it's all about who you know, making those connections. And 4 months later, she called me again and said, hey, that position reopened. And I said, yes. And my career, I would say, started, yes, as an intern, production assistant. Then I went on to be the receptionist. But what was beautiful is that my boss knew I was very driven. I was very aggressive, and she would send me to night shoots. So a lot of times, when you have a TV schedule, things are they're not 9 to 5. You have to know that when you sign up for work in TV, your hours are very different. Being young, I think it was 21, 22. And, a lot of times people don't want to do those night shoots sometimes. And they start like at 7, 8 and may end at 11. And she's like, hey, we have something, you want to do it? And I said, I'll do it. I just kept saying yes to everything that I really wanted to do. And eventually just, it was a way to prove myself, and a way to hone in my skills of this. And I, little by little, just moved on up and became a producer, and I'm more like a field producer, which is someone who goes out on the field and does the interviews, is on the red carpets, and who does the junkets, maybe not on camera, but basically I'm, as I said to people, I'm like, my hand is very famous. My hands holding a microphone is very famous. Mm-hmm. And I absolutely love it. And it brings me, and it still does, such joy to be able to do that work, to know that I can wake up every morning and say, I'm doing something that I've always wanted to do, that I love so much. And it brings me joy, and it makes me happy. If someone can disconnect for a few minutes from everything that's going on in the world, just to, learn, find out what's happening in the world of celebrity culture, it's fun, and I like it. At the end of the day, no day is the same, mm-hmm. which I think is great. And I absolutely love that I get to do this for a living. And not to ramble on, but just to make the transition back into, like I said, the lifestyle expert, where I fell into that. It was, after I left Access, we made a move back to Miami. That's where I'm originally from, begrudgingly, because I did not want to go back. I mean, I was already in New York 13 years. I feel like I'm a Miami New Yorker, as they say. And I did not want to go. And I found it very difficult because a lot of my identity was tied to what I did as for work. And while that's wonderful, that's not who, at the end of the day, that doesn't encompass who you are completely. Right. But I found it a very difficult transition to go back home and leave behind, New York and LA are the center of what is the entertainment world. And Miami, while it does have some entertainment, especially in the Hispanic market, it's not necessarily known for entertainment TV shows or red carpets and junkets, not not as consistently as you do something here. So that was very difficult. And what I thought was going to be very easy to find a job was not very easy to find a job. So I just had to sort of reinvent myself. I started doing more writing. I had a lot of connections in terms of all these contacts that I had made through work. And so I just, applied myself and started doing more writing for magazines, covering a lot more of like the food and travel scene. But then I would still get called from Extra, Access, E to cover shoots in Miami or maybe come back to New York for Fashion Week. And it was in that midst that I sort of, while I'm figuring out this new career journey or whatever it was at that point, motherhood, let's just add, motherhood to that. And then also trying to stay relevant, we're starting to keep those connections. I started like a little blog. I mean, as I said, the blog isn't necessarily my focus like 100%, but that blog has opened so many doors in getting my name out there. And through that and building it up throughout the years while simultaneously juggling other things, I sort of started pitching myself, and I said, you know what, I'm just going to start pitching myself locally here as a lifestyle expert. Why not? This is what I would do on the red carpet. This is what I know. I would book, I would shoot. And little by little, these opportunities started opening up where I would go to local stations like NBC6 in the Mix, which I hold them so dear to my heart for, allowing me to come on and do so many segments, Telemundo, Univision. And little by little, I started getting emails from other agencies, and that sort of opened a whole new world of working with sponsored segments and doing on air and presenting myself as a lifestyle style expert, contributor. And that was wonderful. And that was great. And I was able to loosely say balance that with motherhood and being back in a different city. And then the opportunity to come back to New York where, for us, like media, television, action was such a gift. And to be able to take what I had been given and what I've learned and what I was able to accomplish and transfer it here and now be able to do things like the Today Show, PIX11, the Boston Hub Today, satellite media tours for different stations around the US. I mean, it's been a ride, and it's been such a fun ride, and I feel like it's only getting started, and I'm absolutely loving it. And I'm also back on the carpet as well, back with E and the entertainment shows. And
you just did the Tonys, right?
I just did the Tonys. I did. I've been covering the Tonys. I did the Tonys red carpet, which was so spectacular and it's so energetic. I've been doing a lot of Toronto Film Festival. Last night we did the premiere for Official Competition with Penelope Cruz and Antonio Banderas. So that's why I say my day's different. I mean, every day it's different. Tomorrow today I'm working on segments that I have to do for the Today Show. Tomorrow I am covering a Songwriters Hall of Fame. And then I get to do another thing that I had done while I was in Miami is I had the opportunity to be a part of the South Florida PBS Health Channel. They launched a network. PBS in Miami in South Florida launched a network, and which was so left field for what normally I do, which is entertainment. But here I was doing a lot of medical experts, and I still get to do that every Friday on an IG live with the channel and doing live shows back then in the studio, interviewing everyone from a cardiovascular doctor to a brain to a neurologist or a dermatologist. It was so different, and it opened my eyes to, again, as kind of full circle to what you do. It's like the different factors or flavors that sort of make this world go round. And I was very thankful for that opportunity. And so here we are, back in New York, back on the carpets, back on screen, doing a lot of these lifestyle and style segments. And I could not mention all of that, which you said in the beginning, which is this whole new world of branding, boy. And I'm not even, I feel like it's like just have a pinky toe tapped into that water, because if you look at other influencers or these brand sponsors, that's like a whole other deep realm. Yeah. Okay, I think I've answered that question. Yeah, wow. Okay.
I have two more left. At this rate, I've got two more questions for you.
So we're done. Thank you for joining.
But I guess and I guess it's like I was like, again, the wine world, sometimes people get, I guess, a little bit like down on like influencers because there's kind of almost this like, well, they don't know what they're talking about. And I don't necessarily want to go that, but we should certainly go into like how you vet things and how you learn about the stuff. But I think that there's also, it's another means of distribution. I mean, that's what anybody's doing. And to me, if you look back to like when we were growing up, when we were little, and like I grew up in like the 70s and the 80s, like if you had a product, there was no way you were ever going to get it on the shelf unless you knew somebody at General, like there's
Right.
like 10, 20 gatekeepers. And nowadays you can start something up in your home and you have an idea, you can go ahead, you can find somebody to make it, and then you got to sell it. And that it might be door to door, but more likely it's going to be people who have eyeballs, and that's
Well, you
kind
have
of
to
the
think
name of the game.
about, yeah, you have to think about where your audience is now. The same thing. You grew up in the 80s and 90s, at least for me, and everything was commercials. And you're
Right.
watching your cartoons and you're watching your shows, and those commercials came on. And think about how, think about something as simple as Christmas, right?
Right.
Well, how would I know what I wanted for Christmas? Because I would watch TV and I would see the commercials of someone
Yeah.
advertising this amazing Barbie doll, and that's what I wanted. And I would put it on my list. But you think about it now, we do not have that. It's not where eyeballs are anymore,
Right.
right? You even when you're watching, let's say, streaming, the ads are different, sponsored ads. Not everything has that. Our kids are not privy to commercials anymore in that sense, where they're watching something and they'll be like, "Oh, I want this." Not really. I mean,
Yeah.
everything they have is online. And now
Right.
you have to think about where everyone's getting their news and getting their information. And I understand that there is a divide in, as I said, I'm not going to come out here and say I'm some sort of mega influencer, because I'm not. I mean, obviously, I guess I do sponsored segments or collaborations? Absolutely. And as you said, by vetting, I mean, I only do things that I I know it may sound cheesy, but like I really believe in, or things that I use. I'm not here to, even if you're giving me money, I'm not here to promote a product I don't use or put on my Instagram, because at the end of the day, it's a reflection of who I am, and what I believe in and what I work with, whether it's a clothing brand, whether it's, vitamin brand, it doesn't matter. Like if I don't use it, it's, or I don't believe in it, it's not happening, because at the
Right.
end of the day, you can't just do things for the money. Yes, money's very nice, but at the end of the day, you have to think of it. I'm a brand too, right? I've learned this throughout this journey. There's been a lot of learning lessons, and that I'm also a brand. So if I'm a brand, let's say my brand, which is really, I fashion on a budget, fashion for all body types. This is my brand. I can't exactly, as much as I love, and I do have luxury goods that I love and I use and I mix in with my fashion and I promote. But at the end of the day, that's luxury goods. I'm not that influencer. I'm not that person, right? I am the person who says, hey, or maybe a mom, maybe you're middle class, or you have obviously budget, and you say, I have $30, I need an outfit. I'm like, great, I'm going to help you. This is what you do. This is how we extend our dollar. This is how you can, find what you're looking for. That's my demo. And that's what you have to remember when you are a brand, what your demo is. What is it that you're trying to sell? What is the branding that you're trying to sort of create for your brand? And I think it's important too that, as I said, going back to that I know there is some business of a lot of people, and I know especially happens in the food and wine industry. Listen, I go to a lot of media dives, and I do a lot of media dives because I used to write for about food and drinks, and I still do on my social, and I have a reach, and I have a lot of relationships with a lot of the publicists that may work with these restaurants. But I understand that sometimes restaurants or food or brands, clothing, whatever it may be, I wouldn't say turn their nose down, but I think sometimes it feels like, well, who are you to come and ask for something for free, right? And then post about it and sort of be like the gatekeeper of, should you come here? Should you buy this? But as something you were saying, it's the way that we are getting our information, the way that we're getting advertisers, the way that we're getting people to buy product or go to a restaurant or see a movie. It's all because of this. It's all
Right.
because of the phone. It's
Yeah.
all because of what you're scrolling, what you're seeing. This is where our demo is watching, getting their news, getting their information. And if I'm on Instagram and I see a pretty dress, I'm like, ooh, you know, I want to see that. And I want to see who's buying it, or somebody's wearing it that I like. Oh, this influencer's wearing it. Or, oh my goodness, the chef just posted something to this restaurant in my neighborhood. I want to reach out. because the way I see it is I can share that with more people. That way, more people can go, more people can buy.
Yeah.
So I get it. It's a very, it's, some people are very and open to it, and businesses are very open to it, and brands are very open to it, and some are still very hesitant, because I get it. There are people that will take advantage
Mhm.
just for free. But if your goal is to pay it forward and help, and hey, really showcase something that's wonderful and amazing, and you believe in a brand, and you say, listen, take care of me, or I'm going to do this for promotion, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because in the day, what you're getting is people eyes on your brand, or on your product, or on your place.
The two things that come to my mind is one, like back in the day, you might go shopping at Macy's or Sears or whatever little like boutique store that was in your
Right.
neighborhood, and there was a certain level of accountability. If you didn't like what you got to go back to them, and you were still getting sold something by the person that was there. But I think, to me, part of the comfort back then was also, these are people who they have skin in the game. They're paying rent, and they've bought a whole bunch of this product. I think that when I sometimes shop and when I see things on Amazon, like, I don't want to buy them, because like, I don't know if that's good or not, right? Somebody made something, they're just looking to sell it, so they don't care whether it's good or
Right.
not. Whatever you buy it, they move their inventory. And I think what you're doing is you're really kind of like, now that salesperson, you're the gatekeeper, because at least you have a reputation at stake. If you're selling something that isn't good, there is an accountability, because your whole thing is about trust me. And if
Right.
people are seeing that you're recommending things that aren't good, then now you're held accountable, because they stop paying attention,
Right. And I
or
think
you
there are many
probably get negative
industries.
feedback.
Right. And if I get things sent to me all the time,
Yeah.
and
Can I ask how
and
much,
it,
like, you get a lot of stuff? Say you have all the things that get sent to you. What percentage do you actually then end up featuring on a segment somewhere or
uh,
writing about?
I would say like 30, 40, like I would say like 40%. A lot of
Hmm.
things. I get a lot of things sent, and I have to like it, one, and
Yeah.
two, I also go on their Instagram, go on their page. I check the product. I see how it can work, or is it a fit with what I'm doing. I
Yeah.
mean, sometimes I get sent really beautiful things, great things, but they're not necessarily a fit. Or sometimes I get sent things that, a product, oh, just set a product. You don't have to post about it. And if it's not good, it's not good. It's the same thing if I go to a restaurant. If I didn't like it, like, I go to a lot of restaurants, and sometimes I'll say the things that I don't like, because I mean, yes, I go to a lot of fantastic places, but even when they're not great, I'll mention that I didn't love this, because that's not that's not that's not being subjective either. So
Yeah.
you want to be able to be truthful as well. I mean, that's what you're going to get. I want to go back to an example of something that you were saying, that we were talking about, that about the importance of branding. And I used to see this a lot with work. So I cover a lot of fashion weeks, and I used to set them up at Access Hollywood and do the red carpet. And I would always travel, like I said, back and forth from Miami every September and February to cover the shows. Obviously not during COVID, but they weren't having any. But that's what I would do. I loved it. I loved backstage. I love fashion. So I love, eventually you think about it. Yes, this is luxury, but where do you think everybody else gets their inspiration? Or where sort of trickles down. Obviously, the runway shows are what sets the tone and sets the trends. And I remember, because I worked for a celebrity focused show, for us it was about what celebrities are going to be on the red carpet, what celebrities will be sitting front row. So if you knew the Renee Zellwegers were going to go to Carolina Herrera, if you knew that, Michael Douglas and Catherine Zeta-Jones were going to sit front row at Michael Kors, you knew these. You knew, like, that there are certain designers who have relationships with celebrities that go. And a lot of times, they start. There's a lot of brands that pay, right, to have these celebrities come. I mean, maybe not so much the A-listers, but you had brands that would pay for these celebrities to sit, because it sort of was a reflection of who the clientele was. And it was, again, what were they doing? Oh, is she wearing that outfit? Oh, so if, you know, I'm just gonna, Vanessa Hudgens wears that dress, then I should wear that dress, right? But little by little, as I've covered more and as the years have gone, especially right now, will you see celebrities? Yes, they're probably there on their own accord because they have relationships. But I'll tell you what's in those front rows, Michael: influencers. Only influencers. You get a tip sheet now, and for someone who's a celebrity driven show, unless this influencer is a massive, celebrity influencer, but that's hardly the case, there's influencers who have millions of followers, up there in the six figures too, and they're the ones sitting front row. Why?
Wow.
Because who's their audience, right? Who's their audience? Who are their followers? And these brands, whether luxury good or fast fashion or or any, really know that what at the end of the day, what they want, as I said, is eyes. And if you're going to get that, you know, you have to be smart and change with the times. And this
Yeah.
is where that time is.
And I think, the other thing is, like, people only have a limited amount of time. And in this day and age where you're bombarded with so much more media and you have a phone that like is tethers you to work all the time, people
Right.
have little time. And one of the things that you'd see in the wine world is that, like, there's like kind of a certain, I mean, and I don't necessarily disagree with the idea of like people who like rely on point scores, right? But the reason why the point scores are a useful tool is that not everybody has time to like really dive into wine and learn about, become an expert on it. Sometimes they're just like, I
Right.
just want to get a good wine. I need some measure of whether this is a good wine or not. And I think the only thing I would, and so why not use a point score, right? Or why not use a particular influencer or somebody who posts or has a good blog
Mm-hmm.
and say, that's what I'm gonna do. I don't have the time to survey all these things. And there's so much more out there than ever. Like, you are basically just kind of filling in the role of helping people make some kind of sense of what's out there. And
Right.
and whether it's you, whether it's some person with a million followers that goes to those fashion shows, whether it's some fancy sommelier in New York City who, like, people say, okay, that's my guy. If he says he likes a champagne, then I'm going to buy that champagne.
Right.
Everybody is just finding certain default like sources of like guidance for navigating the different areas that they have to get involved with. So in that sense, I think it's a great opportunity for people, for you and for others, to kind of come forward and say, hey, let me guide you through this stuff.
Absolutely. I feel like we're so bombarded. It's like a flood of information every day, new
Yeah.
product, new this, new trend.
Yeah.
And it almost becomes overwhelming. And
Yeah.
so I think that sometimes at the end of the day, what you want is, to simplify things. And if there's someone that you like or that you respect or you trust or you like to watch, I mean, that's why I love doing my segments. I really love doing, I mean, being the opportunity to be on the Today Show, which has obviously the massive platform and reaches everyone across America, even globally. They know what the Today Show is. I
True.
mean, to be able to be on a platform like that and share, or even know that you're helping one woman or helping, and by help, I mean, hey, you inspire someone, be like, I really like that dress, or I really like those pairs of shoes. Oh, that's an eco-friendly raincoat. I want that too. And one, you're putting brands out there, because at the end of the day, I'm reaching out to these brands when I find something I like, and I'm like, hey, do you want to be part of this segment? And think about it. You're opening doors for two people. You're opening doors for the brands that say, maybe I mean, I like to incorporate, yes, of course, there's the big brands, the big box brands, the commercial brands we all know and we love, right? But there's also like smaller businesses. And I always try to do that in my segments, where I try to include at least one or two
Yeah.
small businesses, or maybe not as, maybe more boutique brands
Right.
that people may not know right away. But here you are. Oh, I'm going to introduce you to this brand. I really love them. They're Miami based or they're Brooklyn based, whatever it may be, because you also want to showcase that. And I love that I get to do that, and I get to share that, and be able to, have a platform where I can give you my feedback or my advice, and whoever's listening will be like, oh, I like what she said. Especially when I get the emails after and they're like, oh, what was that dress you're wearing? Or, oh, hey, I really love this. Or, oh, I love your energy. That was amazing. Like, that's wonderful feedback that you get, and it only fuels you to do more of it. I'm currently working on with different brands. I'm doing something now for swimwear, again, for the Today Show. And it's wonderful to be able to reach out to brands that I haven't worked with, and I'm getting to know them as well, and be like, hey, and the excitement is awesome.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
not everybody gets that, and I get the opportunity to be able to do that, and again, as I said, work with brands and get to be on air, which is something, again, I love to do. It's all full circle, being a producer, and being a producer and getting to interview celebrities or experts every day, sort of ease and help me with that transition, because genuinely I do like to learn about what people do and what they're doing, what movie they're in, and what they thought about that when they filmed that scene. And I think it's fun and it's great, and you get to be on the carpet, which, I mean, who gets to go to work every day and say like, oh, I just finished a carpet, or I did an interview, and you get to meet your favorite artists or your favorite celebrities. I think it's fun, and again, for me, it just all comes full circle. It's all sort of tied in from this little seed that got planted watching my grandfather do sports entertainment, and knowing that's what I wanted to do, and be able to watch it bloom to where it is now. and continue to bloom, because I just feel like, as I mentioned, like so many wonderful opportunities are sort of growing from that, and I'm eager to explore where they go, and it's exciting. It's obviously nerve wracking because you want to make sure that you still all that still comes in, but it's really exciting.
Yeah. Have you? Is there anybody that you, I guess, like a celebrity that you've interviewed that surprised you? Like you had a certain set of expectations, and they were so much, I mean, pleasantly different than you expected, or so it seems like, because it's interesting from like from the outside looking in, like obviously I think we all know enough to know like a celebrity is never going to be like necessarily
Right.
like you expect them to be, and I think it's partly because they're always going to be put in some kind of heroic context. Like when you
Right.
see any celebrity there, Tom Cruise is Maverick, so that's but he's not like that. That's a
Hmm.
scripted thing that makes him look like a hero. And when you meet these people that are far more complicated than they're depicted in movies, because at best Tom Cruise based on how many movies has he done in his life, maybe 20
Right.
20 30 40 movies, that's like 2 hours for each, so it's not that much time. So they're obviously, like everybody else, they're far more complicated. So is there anybody you've met where you're like, wow, I just wasn't expecting that? Or
It's funny because I think people forget that celebrities they're just like us. Literally, they're human, right? They
yeah,
have good
yeah,
days and bad days,
yeah,
and they're playing characters.
yeah,
You're not necessarily, like you said, you're not meeting Maverick. You're meeting this person, or and I think it's important to remember that, because I think there is this idea that you are in the public eye, so it's almost, and you let them in, right? You feel like you're in their TV, you're in their movie, you know them, but at the end of the day, they're people just like you and I. But unfortunately, in this business, you ask the questions that people want to know,
right.
right? Yeah, I've had several experiences where a celebrity has I won't say the ones that I don't like.
No, no, yeah, no, we
I
don't.
need a job, Michael.
Yeah.
So I can't
There's
have
plenty of
somebody
negativity out there. We
run
don't.
into your YouTube and click on it and be like,
Yeah.
I know
No,
that girl.
no, no.
So I'll mention the great ones, which I really enjoyed. Now you did put me in the spot. I wish I wanted to think about this one, because I
Well, I'll tell you. Well, you would think I met Kyle McLaughlin. I got to
Mhm.
know because with the last company I was at, we sold his wine, and what I
Right,
found when I was with him was that it just seemed, I was like so taken aback by how natural it felt. I was like, on one hand, I'm like sitting here with a guy who had seen on TV and movies,
right,
but it's felt so surprisingly natural that it was surreal because it wasn't surreal.
right.
Um, and so I'm sure you have different, you're engaging them in different contexts, but that was my
No,
like
and then
my
sometimes you
personal.
feel like they're your friends. You're like, "Hey, how are you?"
Yeah,
This way,
yeah,
and you're like, "Wait, I don't know you that way."
yeah,
But
yeah.
no, I've had a lot of great ones. I mean, Dwayne Johnson is always one of my favorites.
Hmm.
I've interviewed him several times. Such a humble, really kind, pleasant. I love the celebrities who will sit and, like, literally, like, maybe before a camera starts rolling, they'll sit and
Hmm.
talk to you, and you talk to them, and you have to remember they are, they're regular people just like you and I. They have many of them have children, and I can tell you how wonderful children conversations are as icebreakers when you talk to
Hmm.
celebrities.
Hmm.
One that I was very surprised with was one early on. Like, I remember Kathy Griffin. I had to do a shoot with her, and it was one of the best shoots I've ever had. I've never laughed so much. I thought she was hysterical. Made for a really fun interview. George Clooney, believe it or not, what, so sweet, so pleasant. Who else? Emily Blunt, hysterical. Again, another one that I thought was my best friend in the world. That I remember. There's something. It's a great interview, but she was just, very pleasant, very sweet. Funny, especially when you talk about your kids. So there's been such. I mean, my aha moment was Oprah. I love Oprah, and so when I
Hmm.
got to interview her, I was just like, oh my god, Oprah, Oprah. Like, who doesn't get like the O
Yeah,
effect, right?
yeah.
And she was wonderful, engaging, off and on camera, which was very nice. I'm thinking who else. I mean, I know there's been so many. Probably, I mean, if you, while we talk, I'm gonna just think about a few more. But I mean, I'm giving you a lot of positives, and let me tell you, I've had a
Yeah.
lot of positives as well. Um, that with wonderful conversations and wonderful people. I think Selena
I,
Gomez was a sweetheart. Loved her.
yeah.
She was was during the Hotel Transylvania uh, press junkets, and she was fantastic too, and she was very sweet, and and engaging as well. So I think that's really nice. And again, at the end of the day, we never know what anyone's going through. So sometimes you have celebrities who have very bad days,
Sure.
and then you
Yeah.
get them a second time, and then you're like, okay, it's better
Yeah.
today. Or because the
Yeah.
first thing everyone always wants to know is like, were they nice? Were
Yeah.
they great?
Yeah.
And but for the most part, uh,
When I think
it's been positive.
when I think about what they must go through at these premieres and all the different things they go through, I mean, it requires those actors to continue to act, I'm sure, because like I have a hard enough time walking through like the schoolyard to like see parents because I don't remember names. Maybe I'm not in the right mood. So like when I think
Right.
about like if you were doing like imagine going where like everybody's watching you and they want to know, is he nice? I mean, everybody's asking anybody who's met, George Clooney or, The Rock is wondering the same question. Are they nice? So there's like thousands of people who are meeting these guys and their job is
Yes.
to also be on all the time, which is a hard thing to do. And I see you what I guess I don't like seeing, and maybe people are becoming more savvy to this, is like the kind of like gotcha videos where it's like, oh, look at Lady Gaga's face when this person appeared or something. And it's just like, I mean, everybody, first of all, not everybody likes everybody, and people have these moments, but like it's in some respect, you really have to have a thick skin. And I think you see like kind of
You
the
do.
downside of like celebrity, which is just like that the eyeballs are always on you. And in some respect, like we all are almost making ourselves celebrities in like little, like small sense, because everybody's
Mm-hmm.
trying to get more followers. So we're all getting that scrutiny we never got before, right? Before social media, it was your friends and you saw 2, 3, 4 people at a time and that was it. But now you do countless things where you're posting and sharing with hundreds or thousands of people. And that's a higher level of scrutiny that we're voluntarily subjecting ourselves to.
And I can't even put myself on any scale compared to what those downfalls and those pros and cons when it comes to being a celebrity or mega influencer, because there's the hate comments, the trolling. But something that you said is very true, which it's like, let's say you have a bad day, and unfortunately you're wonderful, as you said. Like, can you imagine having to do when you do a junket? Like, we come in. I mean, I know what I have to get. I know what sound bites I have to get, and that's my job, right? Now, this person, that's their job too, as an actor, a celebrity, that's their job to promote a movie that they're in or promote an album that they're doing. And but at the same time, you also think, goodness, they got like 30 of these today.
Yeah.
I mean, so you better hope you're in the top 5 at least,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
it can be exhausting. Yes, we both have jobs to do, and then you know what? You're unfortunately, unless you're just a nasty person to begin with, and then you're just gonna get a really bad rap. But you might just get pegged for that one bad day you had or that one
Right.
bad comment. So
Right.
it's an interesting wave to ride, I would say.
Yeah. So
But yeah.
I know that we're getting close to the end of, because you got to go. I have 2 quick questions for you. One
Yes.
question before we wrap up was if you could stand on the red carpet and ask the celebrities any question other than like, who are they wearing? Like, what would be like the question you would want to ask everybody? Like that kind of same question.
Listen, at
Same
the
kind
end of the day, what everybody wants to know is if
uh,
they're dating someone, right? Like Jennifer's
uh,
dating Ben, right? The J
right.
Lo and the Benefers, right? You just want to straight up, and in a perfect world, they would answer, right?
Right.
And let's not forget, celebrities are sharing a whole lot more because of social media. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
I remember starting at Access, and like it felt a little more. It felt difficult to get certain things out of them, or things you're always told, like, don't ask about this or don't ask this. But then now they're like in a world where they're on social media too, and
Right.
sometimes you ask that. But in a perfect world, if I can get on a carpet and ask anything, it would just be basically about any relationship, or
Mm-hmm.
if in a perfect world, Bennifer would answer like, what do you guys do at home? Like, what's your favorite show
Yeah.
to watch?
Yeah.
What
That
do
would be
you
interesting.
then do? Like, they're not going to answer that really, unless they're in a
Yeah.
very playful mood. But those are the things you want to ask, and those are the things you want to know, or you want to know, what is it you do at home, right? If you were a fly in the wall at their house when you're
Like
not.
who wakes up first and who's making the coffee, who
Yeah.
makes the
Who has
breakfast,
morning
like who's washing the
breath?
dishes.
Who's washing the dishes? Who's morning breath? Who takes longest in the bathroom? What's your favorite show? What do you what what's your karaoke song when you get drunk? Like things like that. Like, those are the things you want to know. But
Yeah.
obviously I get it. There's a more guarded. You have to add a little bit of mystery
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah.
Because if you know too much, then you feel, eh,
Yeah.
But I mean, there's little things that come with our job that sometimes people think, oh, it's so glamorous. And you know what it is? It's beautiful and it's amazing. I love it. Every day it's different. But sometimes you have to ask these questions that you may not want to ask because you might
Yeah.
get shut down or maybe you're going to rub them the wrong way. But at the end of the day, that you have a job to do, and this is what your audience or your followers may want to know. And it's if they're savvy, right? They know how to work their way around it. But that it's not just standing there looking pretty, asking questions. It's like I have to do my work. I have to do my research. I have to watch the movies. So
Yeah.
so it's definitely something that for me in itself is fulfilling. That I get to do this every day and say, hey, I get to walk a red carpet. I get to do this interview, or I'm working and doing this thing for the Today Show for Telemundo, and I get to do it. And more importantly, my kids get to do it. My kids get to see me do this. My kids get to see me working hard. My kids get to see me doing something I love. And I always tell them, and I say it's so important that whatever you do in life, yes, money's very nice. I like money too. Money gets us very nice things. I said, but if you are not doing something that you love, that every morning you wake up and you are not excited, will do is that you love to do, then you're doing something wrong. And that to me is key. Like I say, and I'm not saying that like I used to wake up every morning, I still do, and I'm like, gosh, I get to do what I love to do. I get to do what I went to school for, and I still like it and I love it. Yes, it's had a couple changes, but I love it. And the hustle is hard and the hustle is exhausting. And sometimes I don't want to do it. But at the end of the day, I know that it's something that I love. And I'm setting an example for my kids that they get to see a mom who is doing what she loves to do, makes her happy. Yes, is it part of my identity? Of course, but it's not my whole identity. But I'm showing them that hard work, not giving up, being aggressive, being persistent, and following your dreams. Like I know it sounds like a Hallmark card, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's true. They get to see that. That way, that when they're going to school and they're studying what they want to do and they pick what they want to do for the rest of their lives, or maybe not for a little while, or what if, it's something that fulfills them. It's something that really, makes them feel like, hey, they're making a difference, whether they're curing cancer or whether they're, you know, on the stage in a theater, or as Maya wants to be an ER surgeon. They're doing something that makes a difference, but at the end of the day, it makes them happy.
Yeah, yeah, and I think to me, like your story, like when I'm thinking about like what like the tips out there for anybody who wants to do what you do, or really almost anything, but it's like there's a doggedness to what you're doing, like a determination to kind of be involved, and it's an authentic like just eagerness to kind of be out there, and I think when you have that, you can throw yourself into it, and I find for myself personally, it just kind of forces your mind to you're always thinking, you're always trying to adapt, you're always kind of reinventing things, and you're doing it not for the carrot at the end, but for the journey. If you love it,
Right.
you're more vested in the here and now, which I think is a healthy way to do things. I don't think everybody has that privilege, and I think
Mm-hmm.
society kind of like coaxes you in a different direction. And I do think there are people who are that can disassociate themselves from what they like versus like
Right.
that end carrot. But I think there's a lot more opportunities out there as we go back to in this day and age with social media and everything to actually to pursue what you love to do, but it's not going to come easy. And I think that seems to be certainly your story. Is it looks like, oh wow, she's on TV on the Today Show, but there was a lot of work, there was a lot of risk. I'm sure there was a lot of anxiety to get to that
Oh
point.
my goodness, my God. I mean, I can anxiety. I mean, phew,
Yeah,
I a
yeah,
1000% agree. I mean, you have to be able to adapt. You have to be able to, as you said, the reason why you chase and you keep going after all the no's when the doors close or when there's rejection. I mean, of course, that's very easy to say, I'm done. I don't want to do this
yeah,
anymore. But you can't, especially if it's something that you love and you want to do, and you have to like reinvent and you have to adapt. You keep going and you keep finding your why as to why you do this. And a big why for me too, Michael, is I'm a child of exiles. I know my parents left Cuba and a dictatorship, came to this country. My mom had her career that she was in Cuba. She was studying naval engineering. Obviously, didn't finish that, but had to come to this country and reinvent herself. She was a real estate agent and a nurse. Same with my grandfather. These are people who left the country, not come to another country for a better life, for themselves and for their future children. And I not knowing a language and having to start from scratch and reinventing yourself, and the sacrifices that my parents made for me are not in vain. And so I think a lot of that work ethic is instilled from them, is instilled from this immigrant child of wanting to succeed, of hoping to succeed, and instilling that as well in my children, and I think, and I always go back and thank my parents for giving me a better life. And now it's my turn to sort of carry that torch and pass it down to my children. And it all starts with a work ethic and a belief in yourself, and again, doing what you love. And I had a perfect example of seeing someone who was doing what they love, and it continues to drive me and fuel me, and know that this is what I want to continue to do. And hey, that might change. That might change a couple years from now, and I might have to reinvent myself for, the umpteenth time. But at the end of the day, it's about staying true to who you are, doing what you love, and not losing sight of that when things get really hard, because they do, and they will. And you can't just say, it's hard, I'm done. As I tell my 6-year-old when he's like, it's good, it's hard. I'm like, no, buddy, that's not how life works.
Mhm.
Things are going to get hard, and life is hard, and it's wonderful, and it's challenging. And then, it'll kind of prepare you for the next thing. It's, which is to keep going. And again, going back, do what you love, something that you want to do.
Yeah, true. Well, I know you've got to get going, so we'll finish. I'd love to finish with the question I like to wrap up all these interviews with, which is, what gives you hope at the end of the day?
Nothing, Michael. The world is bleak. The world is a horrible place right now. Nothing gives me hope. Just kidding. No. What really does give me hope, and I think about these things. I think about kindness, right? Kindness. I think about the kindness of people. I think that we are a world with a lot of kindness, a potential for even more kindness, and kindness starts something at home. Our kids seeing us be kind, us being kind, not for any other reason than to be kind, to whether it's help somebody, offer a smile. I know it sounds cheesy, but honestly, I feel really good when I'm able to do something kind for someone and be helpful. And when someone does something kind for me that I didn't expect, or to my children, my husband, my family, or when my husband helps someone and he shares with me, like, oh, I saw this man and he's telling me this, and it really makes my heart glow, and it makes my heart really happy, because there is that kindness in the world, and it exists in all of us. And I think that, despite all the atrocities and all the horrors that go on right now, that are going on and will continue, unfortunately, to go on, there's got to be hope. There has to be, because what is a world without hope? What is a life without hope? And while you may not be out there, charging and changing the world just on your own, I think collectively, let's just try to be kind to one another. Be kind, do something helpful, and sort of that creates a ripple effect where, it can make somebody's day or change somebody's life. And I think that kindness is something that's so easy that many of us take for granted. And I think that just do one kind thing a day, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it might change our attitude, might change our mood, it might help somebody out, and you might not even know it. So I think, yes, I think that hope that gives me hope.
That's great. Great. All right. Well, Kathy, thanks so much for joining me. This has been great, and I wish we could go on for another hour or two.
Yes, I know. I love it. But maybe that just means that we'll have to come up for another podcast.
Yeah, that would be great. Okay. All right. Well, thanks so much. Have a good day, and best to the Coco and your kids.
Thank you so much, Michael.
All right. Take care.